The Chiefs are atop the AFC sole possession. Let's talk about the teams they're looking down at.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
It's a very live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. Craig's adjusting his camera like he hasn't been doing this show for 5 years.
How live?
It's a
Very live.
The most live, some are saying. But thank you all so much for listening, watching, subscribing, all that great stuff. I am rocking some new apparel that we have available to you at KC Sports Network. We got all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to turn around, but this is a giant KC Laboratory shirt. We've got all kinds of other great apparel, some really fun stuff, some koozies, all kinds of great stuff. You can get it. Go check out all of our socials. Check the link in the description of this show. You can check out some of our new merch. I believe proceeds are going to the KCSN Foundation as well, which is obviously something very important to all of us. More announcements coming very shortly on that as well, I am sure. I'm here with Maddie Lane and Craig Stout. Matthew, hi.
Are you very sure?
Very.
So, I am rocking a James Madison Duke shirt. Since we're all talking about our clothing, I'm watching the JMU Duke shirt. We're doing this in support of James Madison while they try to get the NCAA to allow them to play a bowl game. So we're never taking this shirt off until the NCAA decides to do the right thing. Craig, what is your wardrobe looking like this evening?
Buddy, I'm not wearing any pants as per usual when I'm talking with you guys.
Checks out.
I'm
but one sock. I know.
Yep. You're absolutely right. Buddy, you're going to be wearing that shirt for a little while, unfortunately, because your Dukes, I can't even say our Dukes. I'm a fan, but your Dukes, unfortunately, are not going to be bowl eligible this year.
Bite your tongue.
It is a shame that they are not. That concludes college football chat for the KC Lab this week.
You can watch Barely Bowl Eligible on Saturdays on the KCSN YouTube channels, or Fridays, right? Fridays?
You can watch it live on Fridays at lunchtime Central, but you can also watch it Saturday morning if you would like to do both.
You should do both.
Wow, we've been hanging around way too long.
Very.
I will say, thanks, Maddie. It's so weird. I miss one show. It just feels weird to come back. Like I don't know if it's like a level of codependence I've developed with you two or what it is. But like, I don't know. I miss one show and it's just like everything's off. It feels like I haven't talked to you guys in quite some time, even though we've been DMing this entire time. Me barely.
Because you listen to the show, and so you know everything.
No, he doesn't.
Everything that happened, you heard all the inside jokes. You heard us slander you. Like, you heard it all. So, like, you should be like you were here.
I mean, yeah, I would say, like, me getting slander is not something that's just, like, me gone.
It's true. I mean,
that is, like, everything. I mean, even Jordy's just jumping in the group DMs and just destroying me. Tucker always does. Anyways, thank you for hanging out. What we want to talk about today is, like, obviously the Kansas City Chiefs didn't play a game this week, but they had a phenomenal week because a lot of the contenders lost in the AFC. They have really helped pave the way for the Chiefs to be the 1 seed in the AFC yet again. The Arrowhead Invitational is officially in play, and the Chiefs have sole possession of the opportunity to make it. So, but let's talk a little bit about some of these defenders or contenders. I'm sorry. Some of these, well, I have defense on my mind, but let's talk about these contenders.
As you should.
Yeah. Mahomes is calling them a defensive team.
Well, I mean, like, before we get into like the contenders, what a weekend for the Chiefs, who are on a bye week. They're sitting at home resting, and boy, did they come out as the biggest winners of the weekend here, right? Like, the Ravens lose, give the Chiefs sole possession, first place possession in the AFC. The Bengals, who, well, I mean, they weren't contending.
Wait, why are you
right
to
now.
the 8th seed? Why aren't you going linearly? Why are you worrying about a team that's not even in the playoffs right now?
Sorry, the Fraudgles
are
no longer playoff eligible. And while we like to talk a lot of junk to the Fraudgles, as we should, I don't disrespect Big Lou. I don't want to see that defensive coordinator in the playoffs. So then being outside looking in is fantastic for me, Kent. I have great respect for Big Lou. So the Fraudgles losing was great. As we currently sit, the Bills are not in the playoffs and are currently losing, I believe, to the Denver Broncos. I don't know if that'll hold, but like, what a weekend. What a weekend for the Chiefs here.
And the Steelers won.
Well, they're there.
In the Steelers won. No, and the Jacksonville Jaguars that had a chance to kind of level the playing field with the Kansas City Chiefs this week also got blown out by the 49ers. So
we'll get to them, but like
we'll get to them. But yeah, like Kent was talking about, we kind of wanted to do a state of the AFC at some point in the bye week. We kind of talked about it, and then we decided, hey, there's a number of matchups that really could dictate some of this. I think all of them broke the Chiefs' way, pretty much down to the Raiders winning last night would have been the only one that I would have looked at and been like, boy, that would have been nice if it would have gone the other way. Not that I'm worried about the Raiders, but yeah, it was a really good bye week for the Chiefs.
Well, and here's the funny part. When you look at the Ravens and the Jags currently sitting 2-3 in the AFC race, the Chiefs currently have the tiebreaker with both of them because of AFC record and all that stuff. So like the Ravens have 3 losses on this season. They're all in conference. Chiefs beat the Jaguars in the, obviously. So like things are looking really good for the outlook of their ability to, and obviously some tough games coming up. I mean, the Chiefs play several of, the Bengals, the Bills, they've got
the Eagles,
the Eagles. I'm just talking.
Despite all that, the Chiefs are
yeah.
pretty smack in the middle of strength of schedule remaining. I believe they're 19th according to Tankathon. So like their remaining schedule is not considered one of the best. And especially looking through as we go through, we'll talk about it. But compared to some other AFC teams that we're going to talk about, the Chiefs are pretty far down the list. So that's the good news there.
Let's get going. Let's talk about some of these teams. I'm excited. I want to talk about the Baltimore Ravens currently sitting at the 2 seed. They've just lost to the Cleveland Browns. They're obviously 7 wins on the ledger. I just don't know what to do with them. I mean, if I'm taking, I don't know what to do with them. I don't know if I'm buying them. I know that I know where they stand, but 3 losses in the conference, obviously very difficult conference in which they're playing in. But I just don't know if I totally totally trust the Baltimore Ravens. What about you, Matthew?
Man, it's tough, right? You start looking through just like how their schedule and the way things have gone. They have, a blowout win at the Detroit Lions, a blowout win at the Seattle Seahawks, 2 of the most impressive performances you're going to see this year against teams that are probably going to make the playoffs in the NFC. But then you go back and look and they squeak by against the Fraudgles when Joe Burrow was legitimately on one leg. They lose to the Colts, and who I think was replaced by Gardner. That was the Gardner Minshew game, right? Yep. And then they come back and they lose to the Steelers and then the Browns. Like, talk about terrible QB play. I just don't know what to make of them. When everything's clicking, the Baltimore Ravens look like one of the best teams in the NFL. I think that's pretty clear, but they're clearly very capable of having stinkers and not even just like, we can lose this game, but having downright bad performances. Their defense didn't play very good against the Cleveland Browns, whose offense had struggled all year. Their offense could do absolutely nothing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think there was a little bit of bad luck against the Colts. I think that was a lot of turnovers in that game where their offense actually moved the ball well, but they're a very complete team. I don't think you can poke specific holes or weaknesses in them. I just don't know if they're as strong as some of their best games look. And I think that might've just been a lot of things breaking their way at the right time.
Yeah. I want this team to stay as the 2 seed. If that makes sense. Like, keep them over there because I think if it's clicking for them, they're a very tough team to beat. That defense is legit. It's good. It's really good. Like, we've been spending all this time talking about the Browns defense and how good it is. It is. It's amazing. The Dallas Cowboys defense, it's also really good. The Niners defense is starting to turn some things around again, but the Ravens are just so unpredictable in the types of things that they do. It really feels like a team that once you get to the playoffs, once you get to January and February, has a chance on defense to really click in and be scary. And that offense is certainly good enough to put points on the board, even against good defenses. As you see there, like they played against a really tough, Browns defense this weekend, and they just turn around and hang 31 points on them. Like, that's a monster game for that offense there. Problem was they weren't able to stop them. So I would like to keep this team as the 2 seed, keep them to the point where if the Chiefs are playing them in the AFC Championship, it's in Arrowhead, it is at home, it's the last game before the Super Bowl. I feel like of all the teams we're about to talk about today, and yeah, they're the 2 seed right now, I feel like of all the teams we're about to talk about today, they are the one that, if it comes together, is potentially the scariest team to try and dethrone the Chiefs at this point.
And I think that is the case. I think the variance of Lamar Jackson, I think, is the big thing that's going to be something worth watching.
Sure.
And I think that's one overarching theme for this team is just how how variant he can be. And I mean, he's played well for stretches, but he's not played well for stretches this season either. And also, if you look at this, last night or last week, yesterday afternoon, they surrendered a 16-7. Shut up, Maddie. You didn't even say anything. You just did. You did faces. Anyways, they lost the fourth quarter 16-7. They melted down and lost a game. And I think watching some of these teams in the AFC and just it allows me personally to step back a little bit and just feel a little bit better about, yes, this team has its struggles, it has its issues, but and yes, they just had a meltdown loss against inferior football team, but look, so are a lot of teams as well. And I'm not discrediting the Browns because we're going to talk about them in a second because they're also in the playoffs as well. Let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars, though.
Real quick, before we switch, I mean, just there was a chat. You don't read it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this. The Ravens schedule is one of the most difficult ones remaining. Like Craig was talking about them wanting to stay at the 2 seed. I get where he's coming from because this is a team. If they do all get it together, I do think things will start to look well. I'm kind of on the other side of that coin. I think the more exposure teams have to them and what they're doing, which is a new offense and still a relatively new defense, I think teams are going to start figuring them out a little bit more too. So I don't know if I'm quite as scared of the Ravens. Not that Craig was saying he was scared, just I don't know if I'm respecting them quite as much as the second most dangerous team in the AFC yet. We'll see how it plays out. But they have games against the Bengals, the Chargers, undoubtedly Charger, but still they have talent. At the Jacksonville Jaguars, at the San Francisco 49ers, the Dolphins, and then they end the season with a game at the Steelers, who already beat them once. That's a hell of a schedule down the stretch for the Ravens. How do we think they do? Where do we think this Ravens, I believe, according to Tankathon, they have the fourth hardest schedule left in the NFL. Where do we think these Ravens end up? What seed in the AFC?
It's funny because we're going to talk a lot about the AFC North, and guess they're all lumped at the top, guys, of the strength of schedule that's left. I think they're going to beat the Bengals coming up. I think that they're going to beat the Chargers.
Fraudulent dropping 2 in a row.
Yeah, I think that the potential losses that I see on their schedule right now are the Niners, if they continue to play well, although that defense could give Brock Purdy something, and then the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins can put it together and give them a little bit of a run for their money. I'm saying maybe they drop 2 more at most with the rest of the schedule.
I could see them dropping a third, just being the Ravens, just ravening there a little bit. Jacksonville, 6-3, the 3 seed in the AFC. And honestly, I think shout out the AFC North. I mean, they are just creating chaos with everything right now. This is kind of awesome. But Jacksonville Jaguars, what do we think of them? I don't know if I'm buying it. I don't think I'm buying them. I think they're going to win plenty of football games. But man, I don't know. I don't know if I'm a believer yet.
I'm selling any and all Jags stock that I would still have noise in the playoffs. I think they'll make the playoffs because while I don't know how much we'll talk about the Houston Texans, fun team, they might give the Jags a run for the money. They already beat them once this year, if I remember correctly. So that does matter. But I think the Jags have a pretty easy road going into the playoffs. So they'll make it. That team doesn't scare me. And normally when you have a team that makes the playoffs with a really good quarterback, like we're kind of supposed to believe Trevor Lawrence is, you get nervous. I don't know if the Jags and Trevor Lawrence make me nervous. He seems to play at his best when he gets down multiple scores and there's not a lot of pressure on him. And then he seems to start playing like a number 1 overall pick. But up until, or like before that point, before they get down multiple scores, or when it's like a actual 1-score game and he's got to make plays, he kind of just leaves a lot to be desired for me. So I don't know. I have no fear of the Jags right now. They have done nothing to convince me that I think that they are going to make any waves in the AFC.
Trevor Lawrence has 9 touchdowns on the season, 9 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Like, he's not been this kind of world-beating player. He didn't take that next step beyond what we saw last year, which he took a significant step under Doug Peterson. It's just kind of been maybe even a step back here. And so, yeah, I look at this team a little bit. It's going to be rough. Like, they still have Bengals, Browns, Ravens on the schedule here. Like, that's a brutal stretch for them. Like, it's just, and they're back to back to back. Like, there is a possibility there with the Texans leading it off that they could lose 4 in a row. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility here. That is a really rough stretch here. And we'll see what happens here. Zay Jones, about 45 minutes ago, was booked on a domestic battery count. So their wide receiver room that hasn't been as good as it was projected throughout the season may take an even further hit there and not be able to perform to the level that they're expecting. This team just feels like maybe the wheels are coming off of it a little bit. And I realize that they just won 5 in a row there, but there's a lot of bad teams that they played during that 5 in a row stretch. Then they get blown out by the Niners. They are a loss or 2 away from this just really kind of going off the rails this season, in a season that, frankly, they should be a playoff team trying to push for an AFC championship game. And I just don't know that I see it this year.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Bills are losing 9-0 to the Denver Broncos as we are talking about this right now.
Listen, we're talking about contenders, not teams that are a 9 seed in the AFC right now.
That's true. And we're not talking anymore because we're going to take a break and be back right after this.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Thank you, everyone, hanging out with us. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Please feel free to leave a 5-star review. Tell us what you think about KC Sports Network. Make it 5 stars. That's always very helpful. Let's continue on with our...
Before we continue on, apparently Patrick Mahomes predicted all of the Broncos red zone plays on the Manning cast.
Of course he did.
He's been on fire. They were asking some 3rd down plays that he called out exactly who was going to spy. What was it? He's been nailing it, which they shouldn't be a surprise. He has game planned for both of these teams numerous times. This is like Tony Romo in the booth that first year where he's like, hey, I have the game plan still. And it shouldn't be a surprise. It's just, it has been cool to see. Real quick, we did it. We're going to do it for every team, Kent, just so you're aware. Where do we think the Jags end up going at the end of this, right? Like, do we think they win the AFC South? Like Craig mentioned, they have the Titans twice. Then they have a stretch.
Oh, the Titans.
Mike Vrabel's good for a win against a good. If you play a Titans twice, you're not beating Mike Vrabel twice.
I don't know. I don't know. This year?
No shot.
This year? I don't know about that.
You see Will Levis? Kent's just trying to retroactively bury Will Levis to justify his draft grade. Okay, anyway.
He's top 20 in the draft guide. What are you smoking?
Vrabel Titans twice. The Texans, Bengals, Browns, Ravens, and then Bucks and Panthers. Like, are they winning the South?
No.
Yes.
I don't think they are.
Oh, let's go.
I don't think they are.
I love this take. I do love this take. I'm rooting for this take. I still think the Jags win the South.
I love Doug Peterson. I have not seen enough convincing elements from this Jaguars team throughout the season. They keep laying eggs. And
what do they do to win? Yeah. What's the trump card?
They don't have.
Why do you say they win? Yeah.
I trust Dougie P. I trust Trevor. I think you're right. They don't have a trump card, but we're talking about winning the South. We're not talking about winning the Super Bowl. If the Titans win one, Kent drinks mayo coffee, only fair.
Yeah, I concur. Judging by how aggressive he was against it.
Here we go. All right, here we go. If the Titans win one game against the Jacksonville Jaguars of the two that they will play, I will drink some mayo coffee on this show.
Let's
and
go.
if not, Maddie
Boy.
has to.
I mean, yeah, I will.
All right.
If that's what you got,
Let's
that's
do
what you
it.
got.
I love this. I don't
I'm
know
in.
how I dodged all of this.
And
I'm the one
if-
saying the Jags aren't winning.
And if there is a tie, if there is a tie, Craig has to do the Duke's Mayo Bowl dump, where he just dumps mayo on his head. How about that?
He's gonna concuss himself like Shane Beamer.
That's a lot of mayo.
That's a lot of mayo. I think he just have to eat a banana peel. I think that's what.
Oh, that's
what
true.
he-
Yeah, the tie is the banana peel.
Real quick, Craig, do the Jags make it as a wild card then if they're not winning the AFC South?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Ooh.
Jags out of the playoffs.
I think they're out of the playoffs. I think they've got 4 or 5 losses left. I really do.
Yeah.
I think they've
Okay.
got a lot of losses left on this schedule.
Won't fight too much.
Oh, I mean, look, I'm rooting for it to happen, but that's a young football team in Houston, coach and coordinators
Mhm.
and quarterback.
What are you rooting to happen?
I want the Texans to win it.
Do you think
I support Dougie
that
B.
the Jaguars can beat the Bengals, the Browns, or the Ravens?
Yes,
Or the
Which
Titans
one?
twice.
I think they can beat the Browns.
Okay.
I know the
I-
defense travels. Yes,
Yeah.
I think they can beat I think they can beat the Ravens, depending on. I think there's some variability to the Ravens too. Just depends on the games that they play.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Miami Sea Dolphins. Do we need to talk about them? I mean, we just spent so much time talking about them.
We can skip to their schedule a little
Yeah,
bit if we want.
Mostly just like looking forward for them because like they are in. I know we've been having fun with the Bills, but like the Bills are in their division. That is a tough division to have to win over the Josh Allen led Bills right now. Patriots and Jets don't seem to be much of a contention. So what was thought by a lot of people to be one of the strongest divisions in football going in appears to be very top heavy once again. The only problem is the Dolphins seem to be the only ones at the top carrying any weight. And on top of that, the Dolphins haven't beat a good team since week 2 or 3 of last year, where the Bills had to come and battle the heat and like 99-degree weather in Miami. That was the last time they beat a playoff caliber team. So I don't know yet what to make of the Dolphins. They continue to struggle. That fancy fun offense with go ahead.
I want to give you let you finish the thought, but I got a fun little line before we move on from them.
Okay. The fun, fancy Mike McDaniel offense seems to struggle a little bit when they go up against defenses that are able to adapt and call a game specifically designed to stop it. We saw it last year with the Chargers and the 49ers. We have seen it this year a couple times now with the Bills and then the Chiefs. So like they struggle against good teams. I don't know. They're always going to be scary. I just don't know if they're quite as scary as the 70-some points against the Denver Broncos made them look earlier in the season.
Definitely not. Yeah, go ahead, Kent, and then I'll tag up with the schedule.
You got something? Okay.
No.
The Miami Dolphins have the worst strength of schedule in the entire National Football League. And they have the worst strength of victory in the NFL. The entire NFL. The Chicago Bears, the New York Giants have a better strength of victory. Oh, fraud alert. The Dallas Cowboys strength of victory, 0.298. Just saying.
Well,
Anyways.
and see, here's
Giants.
the thing. The rest of the schedule, they play the Raiders next. Yikes. The Jets.
Hot.
Yikes.
Scorching hot Raiders.
In O'Connell.
Washington football team. Yikes. The Mayo Titans. Yikes. The Jets again. Yeah, that's 5 games in a row where they're playing bad football teams. Those are bad football teams that they're going to be playing against.
How's it end though?
Then, what's that?
How does it end though?
Yeah, then it ends. Cowboys,
Then it
Ravens, Bills. 3 jury's out on the Cowboys, but 3
Cowboys are good.
potentially good football teams there. There's a chance that the Dolphins go into the playoffs, because I still think they're going to go into the playoffs with that, even if they drop all 3 games, but with a 3-game skid. Like, that might be the difference between the Dolphins winning the division and ending up as a wild card team, how they finish the end of the year here. So I've got my eye on those, but frankly, I don't really need to pay attention to the Dolphins for the next 5 weeks when they're beating up on bad football teams again.
All right. So there are your current division leaders.
And it's really important for the Dolphins to get home field advantage, I think, for at least a couple games. That team doesn't want to go play in Kansas City, in Baltimore, in Pittsburgh, whoever. They don't want to play any of these teams on the road. And in that one seed's getting a little farther and farther away from being attainable for them, especially with how it ends. They're legitimately 1.5 games back from the Chiefs, considering the tiebreaker. But it's just, that's important to them. I think the home field advantage is more important to the Miami Dolphins than any other team that we're going to talk about, especially given where the AFC good teams are located. And there's no domes or anything. That's a big deal for them. So they really need to come on strong and get to those final 3 games, I think, without another loss.
The 5 seed in the AFC North.
How did we get here?
Has not outgained an opponent yet.
Oh, did they not this past weekend either?
They did it. I just checked.
What?
Handily.
Oh.
399 to 324. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 6-3 because Mike Tomlin's just a dog.
Yeah.
And they're 6-3, and I don't know how we're having this conversation right now. It's amazing. But they're 6-3. And the only thing I can say about them is they're 6-3. Now, their defense is good. They still have a good defense. Their offense is not good. It's quite bad.
Okay.
And evidenced by them being outgained every single game. But yeah, I'm not buying any stock in the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm buying stock that this team makes the playoffs. I just don't know if they matter, but I'm buying stock that this team makes the playoffs.
Let's delve in.
Yeah. Let's do it.
They are going to give you the same team week in and week out. If you don't come in and play a good game, which they make it difficult, you're going to lose to them. And the problem is, and why I'm not afraid of them, if you can go in there and play a good game, you're going to beat them. Hence why Brock Purdy, when he was playing his best, hung 30 on them and won. Hence why CJ Stroud, playing his best, hung 30 on them and won. Hence how Trevor Lawrence, I guess, playing his best game of the year, hung 20 on them and won. But when they play bad quarterbacks or a quarterback that doesn't have a good game, see Lamar Jackson, they're winning those games every single time. So you start kicking down through the rest of their schedule. Do the Browns have a good quarterback or a good offense? No. They're in that game.
They're gonna win.
The Frogles. Are the Steelers unable to beat the Frogles?
It depends on. It really depends on which Frogles team shows up there. But that's a very losable game.
I want to pause here. The most competitive conference, or the most competitive division in the conference. You think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to walk in to Cleveland and Cincinnati and win 2 road games the next 2 weeks?
I didn't say they're going to win. I said, can they win? They absolutely can win either one or both of those games. But hold on. Okay. We're continuing. They then get the Cardinals. They then get the Patriots. They then get the Colts. They then get the the Frogles at home. And then now they do end with the Seahawks Ravens, which is too hard.
On the road.
Sure. But they're already at 6-3. How many wins do you think? They only need 4 wins, right? 10? You think 10 wins is putting them in wild card contention with some of their tiebreakers? I don't know. Give me the Steelers to make it. They are going to come away with at least 1 win from the Browns, Bengals twice, and Ravens. And I don't think there's any reason to say they won't beat the Cardinals, Pats, and Colts there in the middle of it. That's 4 more wins. That's 10 already. I don't know. I think they're making the playoffs. I'm just not afraid of them because good quarterbacks are going to beat them every single time they play.
Do you guys know that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the 5th worst point differential in the AFC? And
am I surprised?
Right now, they are 5th in the AFC in playoff seeding. It is wild. Yeah, because when they lose big because teams don't make mistakes. They are not built to play from behind in this way. Sure, their fourth quarter theatrics are amazing to watch. Like, they really do. They find ways to win. We talk about this all the time with prospects. It's just dudes that find ways to win. Guys with football character, things like that. They're full of them over there. Hey, go figure. Mike Tomlin found a bunch more guys that can do that sort of stuff. It's what he does. It's what he identifies. I think that they're the last seed in the playoffs this year. Like, I think the rest of the AFC is going to eat each other alive, evidenced by the fact that there's so many teams that are 5-4 and 5-5 right now. I think the Steelers win just enough games, like take just, like 2 3-point victories like they've been doing over and over again, so far this season, and they squeak out enough. And then that's a football team that you want in the playoffs, because if you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you see the Pittsburgh Steelers on your schedule, you're happy. Mike Tomlin's an excellent football coach. That Kenny Pickett ain't doing anything to a Steve Spagnuolo defense, just period. Like, that might be a shutout. Like, it just ain't. He ain't doing anything for that. Like, it's going to look worse than the Ben Roethlisberger Steelers playoff game that occurred. Like, it will. So
probably,
that Steelers defense is not good enough to win them a game in the playoffs. But I do think they squeak out enough games throughout the rest of the year.
Real quick, Kent, were the Frogles better last year or this year?
Last year.
Were the Steelers better last year or this year?
This year.
Okay, last year, the Steelers went 1-1 against the Frogles. Both games were 1-score games. Last year, the Steelers went 1-1 against the Ravens, and both were 1-score games. You're telling me that the Steelers can't win a couple of those divisional games down the stretch? I don't know. I give me Mike Tomlin. That guy, if you get a game close in the fourth quarter, Mike Tomlin wins games.
Weird stuff's going to happen.
Mike Tomlin wins games. Even if he has to come on the field himself, Mike Tomlin wins games.
Yeah.
God, that was hilarious.
I can't believe we're this deep into the season talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can you believe we're this deep into the NFL season? We got to make every second count with DraftKings Sportsbook. You can make the most out of every game day. Quit trying to step into my read, Craig. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting $5 on any matchup. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now and use code KCSN. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on the NFL. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code KCSN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, must be 21 or older in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. Woo! I was a little rusty. I hadn't done that in a while.
You nailed it.
Speaking of rusty, the Cleveland Browns. I don't know.
Gonna move us along like a workman-like co-host, just trying to lend out a helping hand. And
I appreciate it.
Kent comes back over and needs to dominate the ball.
That's me. Cleveland Browns, despite Deshaun Watson's best efforts, are 6-3. They have the best defense in the AFC.
No, second best.
Boy.
Hey, I like this. Okay, never mind.
Wow, the Ravens first, huh?
No.
Okay.
No, they're third best.
Okay.
Their defense.
You just talked about them.
Their defense is legit, man.
Oh yeah.
Kevin Stefanski is also a very good ball coach, working around Deshaun Watson. So this is it's a good football team. I'm buying the stock a little bit here.
Yeah, I think I am too. Okay, so where they are right now, we'll get to the schedule in a second, and their schedule is actually why I'm buying the Cleveland Browns stock. Where they are right now, that offense is just struggling with some of the injuries they've suffered to their offensive line and not having Nick Chubb. They don't have the bread and butter to really sit there and rely on the run game that absolutely, just drowns team and physicality. They don't have that right now. And so there has had to be a little bit more pressure on Deshaun Watson. And honestly, that's why you trade, the farm and then pay him so much money despite everything else, is because you're going to rely on him. That he's just proven you can't. he's proven he's not going to win you a lot of football games on his own. He's going to be, an extra piece. He is going to be the guy that maybe can put you over the top with talent, but we haven't seen it this year. So that's my reservation. But then to what we've been talking about, that defense, when that defense is on, I think they're the best defense in the NFL. I don't think it's particularly close. The way they're moving Myles Garrett around and what he's doing. One, everybody's arguing about MVPs right now. It's Myles Garrett. Case is closed. He's the best player. He's been the most important player in the NFL right now. And they're making it easy for him. They're moving him around. They're getting him one-on-one matchups. Even when he doesn't have them, he's taking over games. He made life miserable for Lamar Jackson this past week. They've been so good on defense, and even playing through injuries, they were still good in moments versus the Ravens. I think this defense is going to keep them in just about every game they play. And as much as I think Deshaun Watson has been absolutely terrible at football this year, there is still some bit of Deshaun Watson in there, some of that YOLO ball magic that he had while the Houston Texans. And you don't want him. I'd rather Kenny Pickett be the guy trying to lead a game-winning drive than the shell of Deshaun Watson that we've seen so far still.
Yeah, they have not been good. They're 20th in the league on offense in points per drive. They're averaging 1.71. It's bad. It's just not been good at all. And with Nick Chubb going out, they lost the catalyst. They lost the guy that could be a game breaker for them. And so, yeah, Kareem Hunt looks fine. He looks fine. I wouldn't say that he looks great. It's not the Kareem Hunt that Kansas City Chiefs fans were accustomed to watching. He's certainly not the
Kareem Hunt that was available until the middle of the season.
Correct. Yeah. So, it's one of those that nothing on this offense scares me. And it's an offense that has Amari Cooper on it, who's a very good football player. That tells you what they've been able to do right now. Now, that being said, the offensive line is still really good. If Kareem Hunt gets it together and this offense decides, hey, we're fine grinding out some games come January and February, we're going to lean on our defense that allows just 1.29 points per drive, which is insane. So, yeah, we're going to lean on that a little bit more and try and grind some of these games out. Yeah, they could be a little salty. They're one of the few teams that the best part of them is their defense right now, with no hope of the offense catching up, and still being a playoff contender. I think that that's realistically what it is. They're going to win a lot of games that are lower scoring games. I don't think that we're going to see a lot of what we saw against the Ravens. I think that's just a divisional game. Once they get to the playoffs, once they get towards January, February, I foresee a lot of 14-13 style games involving the Cleveland Browns here. Now, Maddie, unless you have something that you want to talk about with the Browns here, let's talk schedule, because this team's in the playoffs. I hate to say it, but they are absolutely in the playoffs with their remaining schedule.
What do you think of the Jaguars? Oh, yeah. For sure. We talked about the Steelers game, and I think that one's a little bit of a toss-up, right? I don't think it's a guarantee to beat the Steelers, but I think the Browns have a better defense and probably a better offense. So they should win unless it's Mike Tomlin magic. And then they go at the Broncos, at the Rams, the Jags, the Bears. Any of those scare any of us? Can they lose maybe a Jags game? Yeah. Could they? Yes. But are we scared? Do we think Trevor Lawrence and that Jags offense is doing a lot versus this team? I don't know. So then after that, at the Texans, tougher game, but it's still a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, a lot of young pieces. Then the Jets, and then they finally end the year at the Fraudgles. That's a pretty easy schedule. They can just walk in there and score 14 points a game and come away with 5 more wins at least at 14 points a game. So it's just, this team's making the playoffs. This team might make a really strong push for that 2 seed. This is the team I could really see pushing for that 2 seed looking at the schedule. And I'm not scared of them. I want to be very clear. I don't think they're a bad matchup necessarily for the Chiefs, but this defensive line, from what we've seen, the struggles from some of this Chiefs offense, this defensive line could make things really difficult on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. You want to talk about a low scoring game? If the Browns and the Chiefs play right now, I feel like this game would definitely end with an over under south of 40. I think it's gonna be a super low, super tight game. So I don't know if I want to see them for that reason. Low scoring games, small margins for error. Those get a little bit scarier to me. So I would like to avoid the Browns defense if at all possible.
Do we think that they could achieve the 2 seed with PJ Walker at quarterback the rest of the year?
I think that Deshaun Watson, his ankle is fine. Like, I think so. But I don't
asking.
think I don't think the 2 seed, but they're a playoff team still.
I think the 2 seed's still in play. I think it's still in play because I don't think Watson should matter for more than 2 of those games that I just listed, and PJ Walker could win the rest, right? So like I don't think that would matter as much for this. It would make them a less scary in the playoffs, though. I have even less fear of them in the playoffs if PJ Walker's the quarterback.
The last team currently in the playoffs is my favorite little pet team right now. The Houston Texans, man. And I am just like so impressed with them. Like they go out, they get CJ Stroud. They go out, they trade up aggressively to go get Will Anderson. Like this is a fun team, man. And they've, I'm so impressed with them. I don't know if they're quite ready to achieve everything where, we think they can eventually, but fun team. And they do have I still think they have a legitimate shot at the playoffs. Don't get me wrong. Cause like they do have a last place schedule, but it's a joy to watch CJ Stroud play football. He should probably be in the MVP conversation. Like if we're being honest, he's been outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he should be. Of the teams we've talked about so far, is CJ Stroud the best quarterback? I mean, Lamar Jackson and CJ Stroud, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh boy. Like, so he's playing that well. And DeMeco Ryans and they got that defense going. And like, it's a good team. It's a fun team. I still in the back of my mind am waiting for everything to fall apart. Not fall apart, but like I'm waiting for the wheels to come off. It feels like it's coming because of a rookie quarterback, because of a rookie head coach, because of first-time kind of coordinators or younger, newer coordinators. And we haven't really seen signs of any of that. We haven't seen a reason to expect it other than we all know in the back of our minds how young this team is and how they shouldn't be ready right now. So if it doesn't come, that's awesome. That's great. It's just, I still right now, I'm kind of waiting for it. And now the question is, does that come in the regular season for a stretch of games, or does that not wait until the playoffs and then happen in like a bad kind of blowout loss to a team that is ready for the moment in the playoffs? I don't know.
I mean, okay. I have established my love for the Texans and that I think that they're going to win this division.
You have.
I have done that on this podcast. I also look over here and see that they have lost to the Panthers and the Falcons this year.
Yeah, true.
Fairly recently. Panthers was 3 weeks ago in a 15-13 loss. Like
and the Colts.
The defense did enough. Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. Their other loss, the Colts. So I understand, and the Ravens. That's a good loss though. Like
They're not particularly competitive though. That was week one, but then they weren't competitive though, right? That was like them playing a good team and they weren't competitive. So like I
agree. But Jags, Steelers, Saints, Bucks, Bengals, like those are good wins. Like I'm not looking at that and I'm going, well, they're just beating up on bad teams. There's some good wins in there. So I really truly believe that this team is putting it together. That Bucks win, I think, was a big one to make them feel, again, CJ Stroud, Matty talks about it all the time, throw him with his chest. Like, he was good before that. All of a sudden, he looked elite. And if he hadn't have thrown an egregious interception at the end of that Bengals game, we're not even talking about this as being particularly close. Like, they iced that game. CJ Stroud was just really, really poor right there at the very end of the game. So, get the reservations about a rookie player, young head coach, all this, new head coach and all of that. But I mean, schedule coming up here versus the Cardinals, versus the Jaguars, versus the Broncos, 3 games at home right there. That's, I'm going to go ahead and say that's 3 wins. I think that they're going to beat all 3 of those teams. Then they travel to the Jets and then to the Titans. Again, I think that they can win both of those games. Now, all of a sudden, you've got the Browns at home. We'll see. Titans at home and at the Colts. That stretch at the end of the season is going to dictate whether or not they win the division, whether or not they're in the playoffs, all of that right now. AFC South's getting 1 team in the playoffs right now. They're not going to have another wild card slip in here. So I'm saying that they finish strong enough. CJ Stroud plays really well. I think they win the division.
I'm starting to question whether or not they're going to win the division.
Interesting.
After I ran through the schedule?
Yeah.
Rule of
Yeah.
Rabel. They're dropping one to the Titans.
That's fine.
So this is all I want to say. You talked about it. They lost to the Panthers and the Falcons. So, like, are we
Yeah, but
locking
they're
in the
playing
Cardinals,
better.
Jaguars,
Look.
Broncos, Jets win?
Yeah.
Like, are we locking those in?
And they might be a high variability team. But going to Cincinnati and beating the Fraud Goals is still very impressive, especially the way that the Fraud Goals have been playing of late. Or were playing of late. So, they beat the, Bills. Well, we can talk about the Bills in a second, who are currently losing 12-8, and Josh Allen has just thrown his second interception of the first half, and Russell Wilson's driving. Well, driving's relative. I mean, they've handed the ball. Let's go to the non-playoff teams, which is really like my favorite segment of this show, I think.
I'm going on record. Texans don't make the playoffs. I just want to get on that. I don't think the Texans make the playoffs, but I think they're in contention until the last couple weeks. I think we're going to get a couple rookie head coach, rookie coordinator, rookie QB moments that are going to cost them some close games, because I do think they play a lot of close games right now, and I think they're very good for a young team. I think they're going to fall just short.
I think that defense is getting better. I think we're seeing that defense really improve recently, and I think that's what's going to help them with the rookie quarterback.
Giving up 37 and 27 points back-to-back weeks.
I know, but those are...
They're
playing better, though. They are playing better.
It was a good 27. Shout out my favorite team, the Houston Texans, for beating the Cincinnati Fraud Goals. Quite delicious, if you ask me. Out of the playoffs if the season started today. And I'll be honest with you, the Fraud Goals are on miss playoff alert significantly. Just getting done paying Joe Burrow, just getting done paying Orlando Brown Jr. The Bengals are on high alert for missing the playoffs. Oh, how delicious. They're 1-4 in the conference. They are 1-4 in the conference, y'all. Could not be a worse situation for them right now. Oh, they might miss the playoffs.
They could. They 100% could miss the playoffs because, well, let's do the whole thing together here, where they're playing, how they're doing. Like, here's the concern. Let's do this in reverse. Let's do the schedule. Here's the concern. They go at the Ravens. Then they have the Steelers. 2 divisional games coming up back-to-back here. Those are going to be 2 tough games. At the Jags. None of us are believers in the Jags, but you're still going to play a team currently slated to be in the playoffs. It's not a gimme game. Then you get the Colts. Okay, that's a good one. You catch your breath. Then you get the Vikings. Then you get the Vikings, who have played a lot better football since like week 4. I don't think the Vikings are like winning this game, but that's still a tough game. Oh, hey, guess what? You get Mike Tomlin on the Steelers again. You're going to go 2-0 against the Steelers? Oh, welcome to Arrowhead. You want to get Arrowhead and then
Happy New Year.
And then Cleveland. Like, that's brutal.
That's brutal.
For a team that, while playing better than they did maybe weeks 1 through 3, still is not clicking on either side of the ball. The offense doesn't look great. It's been a lot of Jamar Chase, please bail us out. The defense doesn't look great. Every now and then you get a stretch of Big Lou doing Big Lou things, but I think you see the weaknesses of they've lost a lot of guys in the secondary since this defense that has been really reliable in the playoffs. They don't have the same safeties and corners to call up all the exotic stuff. When they're dropping 8, guys are still getting open. Trey Hendrickson is now hurt. I don't think it's significant, but that still matters. He's been the best player on this defense, maybe the second best player behind Chase for this team this year. So I don't think the Bengals are in a good spot. I think the Fraud Goals are definitely on missing playoffs watch. They got to go on a heater now. And from what we've seen from them, I don't know how capable they are. Not capable, like I don't know how confident I am that they are about to go on a heater like they have the past couple seasons.
And see, when we've watched this team as they've kind of toughed it out through the regular season, I'm not saying that they haven't had bad stretches. They have. They have largely been at the beginning of the year, which, again, they did this year with Joe Burrow being hurt. But when you watch this offense, like if you watched that Texans game, like it just doesn't, it looks segmented. Like there are moments that Jamar Chase touchdown that Joe Burrow threw was excellent. Like him rolling outside the pocket, putting that on a string, like that's excellent. That's vintage, what we expect of the Cincinnati Bengals, but it's not as frequent. And I bring this up specifically to tie it back to the Kansas City Chiefs because we have spent all season long talking about how this offense is struggling. When are they going to put it together? Can they do things? Can they fix this? Can they put it together? Can they figure out how to score enough points to supplement this defense? And frankly, I watched the Bengals, and it's very up and down. They've got a good win against the Seattle Seahawks, but it was 17-13. Like, really good win against the 49ers where they put up 31. That's great. Big win against the Buffalo Bills, last week. But again, the offense looked segmented, did not look like it was flowing the way that we've seen it flow in previous years. And so it's not just because of the pressure in Joe Burrow's face either. He is making mistakes. Whereas before you pointed back and it's like, oh yeah, you got sacked 9 times. No wonder the offense didn't look good. This year, it's not the same thing. He's still getting hit, but the offense just doesn't look in sync. They can get there, but this is a really brutal stretch of teams to have to try and get right here at the end of the year, and they can't drop any more games. Like, you've already dropped, 4 games at this point in the season. This is rough in a tough AFC.
How much help does Joe Burrow need? One weapon misses a game and they lose. I mean, they didn't have T. Higgins last against the Texans, and that was it. And Joe Burrow threw a hilarious, terrible interception that cost his team the game and potentially a playoff spot for the most expensive quarterback in the National Football League, whose contract hasn't even set in yet. And now they're going to lose T. Higgins in free agency too. This Thursday games, they have to win. They have to turn around Thursday night football. Both teams are off of a loss. The last thing I think the Bengals wanted was the Ravens to lose as well. Fresh off of a loss. Both teams fresh off of a loss. Bengals going to Baltimore to try to play the Ravens. That is
Ravens already up 1-0 on them for the season.
That is.
I would say real quick
that
too.
could bury them because as competitive as the AFC North is, this loss to the Ravens could absolutely bury it. That'd be their 5th conference loss.
Yeah,
Chiefs haven't had 5 conference losses in, I don't know,
a long time.
Long time.
The T. Higgins injury hurts because he's been banged up all year. And like, I don't want to make excuses. Like, you shouldn't need 2 legitimate wide receivers competing for Pro Bowls and stuff like that to be good. And not that Joe Burrow necessarily needs that, but this Fraud Goals offense hasn't looked good except for the few times when those 2 guys have been healthy together, especially this season. And like, I think that matters. I don't know if Higgins is ever going to be at 100% this year because they have to rush him back because they can't lose any more games. So they need him back. The problem is when Jamar Chase is going off and teams start giving him extra attention, Burrow's having to throw to tight ends and Tyler Boyd, and there is just a lack of consistency there. Not that those guys are bad, not that they have bad players. It's just there's a lack of consistency there for the style that they play, and it's clearly not clicking. It's leading to bad interceptions. It's leading to bad throws and bad routes. And like, just to go back to Craig's segmented point, there is just a lack of continuity between Burrow to everybody else that's not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins right now, and it's destroying them in some of these close games. And I don't know how you get that back on track because when Higgins comes back and is healthy, you have to feed him the ball. He's the reason they won 2 weeks ago, was because T. Higgins was the guy going off. And so like, it's a tight spot for them right now. And we'll have to see Thursday if Higgins can go and what that offense looks like. So if they take this loss, trouble.
Can the Cincinnati Bengals, I know that they can, it's any given Sunday, but do we think that the Cincinnati Bengals without T. Higgins, without Trey Hendrickson, and without Sam Hubbard can win this football game? Like, those are 3 major pieces for this team.
Orlando Brown will get somebody hurt. Okay, I want to talk about one more team before we get out of here.
I got a bonus question at the end.
It's the Niners.
No.
Oh, I tried. I shot my shot. Okay.
Blank.
Buffalo Bills 5-4, losing currently to the Denver Broncos as this show is recording. Josh Allen's thrown 2 interceptions. Here's the funny thing: the Buffalo Bills could lose by 2 touchdowns tonight and still have the second highest point differential in the AFC. They are the weirdest team. They're the absolute weirdest team ever. And it's the variability. I don't want my brother listening to this because we've been arguing about the Bills because I still believe in the Bills a little bit. I'm believing less and less as I watch this Broncos game. Their ceiling's best team in the AFC.
No, it's not.
Maybe not with all the defensive injuries now.
Yeah.
Maybe not with all the defensive, but I'm still kind of leery of this team because I trust what they have. I trust their leadership. I trust their players. I think they got good players still. Now they've lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball, but man, I think Josh Allen is, I still believe in him.
Okay. What players do you trust?
Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs.
And right? That's the end of the list, right? This year, that's the end of your list with the injuries, with the aging of players. Like, that's the end of your list. Is that enough to say that they have that? This isn't true. The Buffalo Bills haven't had enough turnover on their roster of the big guys of the main core in the last 3 years that people, I don't think, are paying enough attention to guys either not continuing to develop and get better or guys regressing. Specifically, that safety room has regressed. Yeah. No corner. I mean, Trey White's never been able to get back to the same amount, and then now he's hurt again. He's never been the same guy that he was 3 years ago when they were the best defense. Matt Milano peaking, hurt. They lose Edmonds there next to him. Their defensive line, the guys that are getting better have kind of either peaked. Von Miller's coming back from injury, but he doesn't look the same. They lose guys on the interior.
And Oliver's been good.
He's been good, but
he's been good. Yeah,
he's been good. It's just, I think they're all kind of like the core of that team has been the same for so long, but the guys that were older have gotten worse. The guys that were supposed to get significantly better haven't gotten significantly better. And we still treat them like they have the potential to be that team that was 3 years ago. No chance this team is the best defense come playoff time in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Zero shot. They're going to be one of the worst. And when you flip it to the offensive side, the offensive line is no better than what it was 3 years ago. Josh Allen's the exact same player he was 3 years ago. Stephon Diggs, same player he was. Great. Those two guys can be very good. Same. Gabriel Davis, same player he was 3 years ago. Nothing is different. It is the exact same team, except for guys are getting older and teams are figuring out how to play them more. I think the Bills have hit their ceiling on what this version of this team can be. And the sooner they realize that and go back to the drawing board to reset, the better for that organization. This current core of the Bills that they have now is not winning a Super Bowl. They're not doing it. They need to reset this.
Yeah, it's rough to watch a team with so many players that I frankly not be able to put it together. I know that I said this about the Chargers, a while back where I'm just like, man, I love a lot of the players that play on that team. I don't love that they play for, San Diego, Los Angeles. I know, never going to shake that. But it's rough to watch all those guys look the way that they have. And it's just getting worse. And yes, injuries do make a difference. I think it's funny that, Maddie, you didn't mention a former first rounder that's also hurt in Kaiir Elam right now. It
doesn't matter if he's hurt or not. He wasn't playing.
What's hurt? What's the injury?
Hurt by the fact that Trent McDuffie is a better football player than he is. No,
the Bills tried to trade up for Trent McDuffie.
It's just, and I know I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth with regards to like the Houston Texans that have losses to two really terrible football teams. I don't trust this Bills football team. Like, they lost to the Jets opening night against, with Aaron Rodgers going out of that game. Had no business losing that. Lost to the Jaguars in the middle of the Jaguars, not looking good. Barely beat the New York Giants 14-9. I mean, come on. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Are you just looking at the schedule now, Maddie?
What is I'm looking at the stretch that Craig's going through. I looked ahead of the stretch. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then they lose to the Patriots, also one of the league's worst teams. Barely beat out the Buccaneers. That's fine. And then lose to the Bengals, and now are losing to the Broncos. This is not good. Like, they can't be trusted. You don't know which football team is showing up at any given time. Like, it seems like this team, especially against some teams that they should absolutely trounce, just mails it in. And maybe that is a product of winning so much over the past several seasons to where they're just in the mindset where it's just like, we just have to show up and these other teams, we'll be able to beat them. doing whatever it is that we want to do. And so again, this
The
is
Andy
yet
Reid philosophy.
And when they
but
they're
not
good at
even
it. When they
to
have
the
the edge, they
execution
run it up
level.
too. But when they have the edge, they run it up. And that goes to Kent's point. Like the Bills are going to unload the clip every single week to get up there. And I think that has been to their detriment in years past. And this year, the problem is this year, they have to unload the clip to beat the Buccaneers, to beat the Giants. They are going to have to unload the clip
to beat the Commanders,
the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Their best win is the Dolphins.
It is.
They beat the brakes
and
off.
They won 40-20.
Whooped them. Absolutely. And that's when everybody went up. The Bills are back. And then they turned around, lost to the Jaguars, put up a middling performance against a terrible football team in the Giants, and lost to the Patriots. Like that 3-week stretch absolutely ruined any momentum that they had coming out of Miami.
You want to talk about 3-week stretches?
Oh, yeah.
Maddie's hyped. After this Jets, they put the Jets on the 19th. Then it's at Philly, at KC, home against the Cowboys.
Yikes.
Woo! Still, then traveling to the Chargers. And again, Chargers any given week can take in.
Look, the Chargers have 17 road games. Like, chill.
It doesn't matter where it is. They still going to play the Chargers. It's going to be a one-score game.
They have to go all the way across the country for that one.
Across the pond.
It's going to be a one-score game, and it's going to be to the Chargers Charger or to the Bills Bill. Like that's
the Chargers Charger.
It's not the Bills Bill. Just Josh Allen. Just Josh Allen. Or to the Chargers Charger. But then Patriots, who beat them once. I'm not saying again easy game, but it's a divisional
Bills will
game.
win that game. Yeah.
Dolphins to end the year.
Yeah.
That's a.
This team has to figure out how to find some consistency, because if they don't, they're going to lose a bunch of games, and they're already on the outside.
Have you seen their quarterback?
I have, and
What's
don't
consistency?
It's not there. So I just don't. There are some wins in this schedule, but I don't trust them enough to think that there's any way that they can mount, a stretch at the end of the year here and come up with enough wins to get themselves back in the playoff race. Like, I think that this might be Sean McDermott's last year. If he misses the playoffs, he's gone. Like, they can't stick with him, because they will have now wasted the prime of a lot of these players. And 13 seconds, losing that 13 seconds game to the Chiefs was probably the inflection point. It hadn't been the same since.
They broke their brains, and they spent billions of dollars last offseason, and now here we are.
To the Froggles. I mean, they can't fire Leslie Frazier, have McDermott take over the defense, and have that be a key problem. I understand the injuries, but you can't survive that.
Yeah.
So, okay, money where it goes. This isn't my bonus. It's just real quick. Bills making the playoffs, yes or no?
No. I know Ken's conflicted here.
Okay, Craig. Well, he thinks. Who are your playoff teams? Run down your 7
playoff teams. Chiefs. We're going to see Chiefs, Dolphins, Ravens, Browns. Let's see here.
Texans.
Yeah, sorry. And then I got 2 more. Steelers. I don't know who I've got as my last team here.
I mean,
Jags?
You got Bills, Bengals, Jags.
I'm gonna say Bengals.
Okay.
The Bills are making the playoffs.
Who's your teams?
All those what Craig mentioned, and also the Bills, except for the Bengals, because screw the Broncos, or screw the Bengals as well. The Froggles. I'm sorry.
How about you?
Is that your bonus? Is that your bonus question?
No, it'll be quick. But you guys took forever. We're gonna go Chiefs, Browns. Chiefs, Browns, Dolphins, Ravens. Did I say Browns, Ravens, Jags? Jags are sneaking in. I got 2 more. We're putting the Steelers are making this bad boy, and Bills. We had the Froggles out and the Texans out, I think, for me, are the 2 big ones. All right, here's the bonus question, real quick. Raiders 5-5, Chargers 4-5, Broncos 3-5. Who finishes second in the AFC West?
Chargers. And I think, honestly, I think the Raiders are going to finish last, but I don't think the record's going to be as bad as they think they are. I think the Broncos got a little something going.
It's the Chargers still. But Brendan Staley's not here after the season's over.
Oh, yeah. No, they're going to miss the playoffs.
They're missing the playoffs. And, yeah. It's still the Chargers for me.
Should have fired him last year.
Is that your bonus question?
That was the bonus question. I want it to be the Raiders. I want it to be the Raiders so bad.
I want it to be the Raiders because then they'll keep Antonio Pierce, who I believe at one point challenged an unchallengeable play and lost a timeout last night against the Jets.
Antonio Pierce also involved in a giant scandal at Arizona State in terms of breaking a bunch of recruiting laws and is now head coaching an NFL team. And Herb Edwards is talking about it on ESPN. That's okay. We're attacking Jim Harbaugh for some random guy for stealing signs like everyone else just did it illegally. But yeah, Antonio Pierce is coaching.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
you are really.
I just figured out why Maddie asked this question.
Well, you're doing a lot of heavy lifting for the sign. Everyone does the sign stealing.
Yes,
except
they do.
Legally. Okay, yeah, one committed like cyber crimes to do it.
Oh my goodness, we do.
Kent
not
is
have
so
to do
mad
this
that
on
the entire Big
podcast.
Ten is fighting
Cut
Jim
it,
Harbaugh
Tucker.
and losing. It's 12 on